Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on another Synyega webinar, and what is the final Synyega webinar of 2025. So it's great to have you with us. As you will have seen when you were registering, this is the three gurus talking about ITAM. First thing to say, it is now actually two gurus talking about ITAM. Rory can't be with us, and I think David, I think you've got some information as to where Rory is, haven't you?
Yeah, we got an interesting message last night, Rich. It said something about 24th of December deadline, broken sleigh, bad hoof on reindeer. So make of that what you will. But yeah, just the two gurus today, because 24th of December deadline. I mean, I'm not putting any rumors out there.
But make of that what you will, people of the ITAM world. So today you have got me, as ever. I am Rich Gibbons, and alongside me today is everyone's favourite ITAM aficionado, David Foxon. I think most people will be familiar with you, David, but don't just give a quick hello before we jump in.
Certainly. Thank you, Rich. So David Foxon, SAM Beast Consulting, founder, only person that works there, makes the teas, etc. Like Rich said, massive ITAM enthusiast. ITAM is life. I've only ever done ITAM. And yeah, appreciate all of you for joining today, and hopefully not too many drop off now that Rory's not here.
Very good point. Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on that. So, in fact, the number's going up since we said Rory wasn't coming. So that's good to know.
Rich, before we start, can we also just point out that there was a direction to wear Christmas jumpers, and we don't just normally work in football-related Christmas attire?
That is true. Yeah, we've Christmased ourselves up. Weirdly, we've both gone with the football theme. So I've gone with Maradona for those of you that are interested, and David, you've gone with the mighty Luton Town.
Yeah.
So
we know who the goat is on that one. Yeah.
So as always with webinars, this is being recorded, so if you need to duck out, you'll be able to watch the rest of it later. And I say this on every webinar, but probably even more so today. Questions, comments, thoughts, arguments, whatever it might be, more than welcome. Please put things in the Q&A and or the chat, whichever one is closest to you. So, because what we're going to do, we're talking through things in the ITAM world that are kind of relevant, near and dear to our hearts. But of course, we're more than happy to talk through any other topics as well, answer questions while you've got us. The agenda that we have put forward today is initially we're going to talk about ITAM, not just SAM. That's something which David in particular is keen to point out. We'll talk through that. There's some subtopics there as well, which we'll cover. We're going to talk about FinOps, AI, sustainability, price increases, all sorts of things. So that's our sort of rough agenda. But like I say, anything that you want to throw in there, please do. And just a couple of little technical bits. There we go. Oh, so we've got people coming in Q&A and the chat. Great question from Stu. How do you become a guru, and how do you retain guru status? I don't know, to be honest. I think it's something you're not allowed to call yourself a guru, in my opinion. You can't call yourself an expert either. Other people start calling it you, and then it sticks, basically. And I think Mr. Foxon agrees with that.
Mate, 100%. If you can never classify yourself as a guru, an expert, any of that, even like the L word in a leader. It's not your place to define that. It's for other people to see what you can do and then define that for you. Please don't ever put that on your LinkedIn either if you're an expert in something, because yeah, that's for other people to decide. I completely agree with you, Rich.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's good that we're we're on the same page there. So yes, I should point out, although this is effectively my webinar, I didn't come up with the title, so I didn't call myself one. But yeah, I think the first place to start is, and this is something me and David have talked about, you know, recently and in the past as well, that it's ITAM. It's not just SAM, so IT asset management, not just software asset management. And you know, I will admit to being guilty of this myself. I have more of a software focus. I do use the two terms interchangeably sometimes, although I know I shouldn't. So David, like I say, I know this is something that's quite close to you. What are your thoughts on the differentiation and the confusion?
Yeah, so I think if we can almost peel behind the curtain as well, there's some of those chats, because we've spoken about this before, right? When I've
Hmm.
come to you guys and said, "Oh, why do I never see any ham or ITAM specifically around your stuff?" And you tell me, I say, "Well, no, we do SAM, right? The focus is on the software side of things." My argument now in 2025 is, and even before that, probably since COVID, when hardware asset management had that sudden focus because everyone's scrambling around for stuff, is if you're purely just focusing on SAM and software, how are you determining where your software is residing, the services, the hardware and stuff that it's on, how many licenses you need, all of that? Because, you know, you need a bit of hardware asset management background to be able to calculate some of the license compliance positions for your infrastructure estate, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think some people are doing that bit of ham, but not really realizing that they're doing it. Almost, it feels like, well, obviously you need to do that, so I'm just still doing Sam. So I think maybe there is a bit more ham than people think. But I completely agree that, yeah, post COVID it became much more important, real big spike. And I think sometimes as well, because there's so much of focus on cloud, people kind of think, well, you know, you got cloud and software, that's pretty much everything. But actually, and again, you mentioned this the other day, you know, hardware is still a huge part of, you know, what companies are spending money on, what they're focused on, really key when it comes to data protection, etc. as well. So are you seeing, you know, hardware asset management, you know, if you're wanting to do ITAM successfully, you have to do ham as well?
100%. I mean, to be fair, Rich, you only have to look back even 10 years or so, right? Even pre-COVID, SAM was the big focus. I mean, even my company's even got SAM in the title. It's not got ITAM, it's got SAM in it because that was always the focus. There was always the fear of audits, there was the fear of compliance. The whole realm around it was all about software asset management, managing your software assets throughout their life cycle, optimization, compliance. Hardware was kind of like that. We'll get round to it. That unloved member of the family you see once every 5 years because you have to. Oh, we got hardware that needs refreshing. Right, okay, fine, whatever. Just buy whatever. I don't care. The focus was always on SAM because there was that fear mentality of compliance, audit, renewals, complicated licensing metrics. But then it's really transitioned now into, and COVID, I think, really helped with that. It's moved into the fact that you really do need to be able to do both to achieve great success in both areas. So to be able to do SAM properly, you're going to need elements of hardware. And like you said, Rich, people might not even realize they're doing bits of hardware because in their heads, of course, I need to go and understand how many cores this has got, but that's hardware, right? That's hardware. So already you're not just doing SAM, you're looking at hardware specifications and infrastructure. So actually, you're moving into the realms of ITAM. And I think we've seen the growth, and I'm going to call it ITAM now. We've seen that growth in ITAM, adding on all these different things. We're going to talk about it today with FinOps, Green Ops, Green IT, sustainability. It's just constantly evolving now, right? The demand from organizations isn't just to focus on the software side. It's not just to focus on the hardware side. It's to combine them both so that you can optimize your software fleet, your hardware fleet, your cloud environments, and basically be a one-stop shop for everything that's considered an asset within the organization. But granted, like 10 years, 15 years ago, even when I started in ITAM in 2008, Gordon Bennett, in 2008, hardware really wasn't that much of a thing in any of the organizations I went to. It was all focused on software. But we've evolved, right? ITAM's grown. People have seen the benefits that ITAM can bring when you bring in hardware asset management. And there's so much opportunity and scope within there that we can do as well. And you bring in FinOps, and suddenly it's a beast. It's not just looking at software, it's providing value across a whole different range of areas to even new stakeholders that maybe we wouldn't have engaged with in the past. So, Rich, if there's anything for you from this webinar, the next time we talk personally, I want to see the ITAM, not the SAM, yeah?
Well, I mean, my background is Microsoft through and through, so software is my area. But I do agree, and we'll touch on some of it in a minute as well, that, from an organizational perspective, if you're only looking at software, you're only looking at part of the picture. Equally, if you're only looking at hardware, you're only looking at part of it, and it is having that rounded approach. If you've got 10,000 licenses and your Active Directory isn't very clean and you're not sure on users and if you've only got 9,000 devices, it's probably a good indicator that you've only got 9,000 users in that area. So they definitely tie together, and I will indeed at least tell you that I talk about hardware next time as well.
Thank you for me, just next time, even if you don't talk about it elsewhere, just to me, just use ITAM. But I mean, great point you mentioned there about if they ever look in AD at the number of users and the number of assets and stuff. Back in the day, it was probably a 1-to-1 ratio from a hardware asset management perspective, right? It was probably just a desktop that people logged out of. They had their designated seat. Nowadays, you've got laptops. Some people also have a desktop on site when they go into the office. They might have a tablet. They've got a phone as well. There might be some niche equipment like dedicated printers, 3D printers, stuff like that. So that ratio has kind of exploded as technology evolves. And that needs life cycle management. A lot of this stuff is really expensive. We talk about optimizing costs in the software space, but actually you find a knock-on effect that if you're optimizing your hardware infrastructure, there's that knock-on effect then that you can also optimize on your software side of things. And some of the biggest rewards from an ITAM perspective with a focus on hardware asset management is just visibility of data, right? It's going in, looking at an asset management database, not a configuration management database, an asset management database, and populating it with really useful lifecycle data that's out there. You can go on warranty portals, type in a serial number, see when a warranty expires, get your procurement information from your hardware vendor and start looking at depreciation values. Build a hardware refresh cycle, which is something that a lot of people before COVID, they didn't seem to really get a grasp of. They didn't know what they needed to budget for next year, the year after, etc. And it's such an easy thing to do from an ITAM standpoint, because again, if you don't have the procurement info, just go to warranty portals. You can do them in bulk in 1,000 serial numbers at a time. You get all the warranty data, and off of that, you can start to see when things have been purchased, build in your life cycle dates, and send senior management a report that goes, here's your hardware refresh plan for this year. Oh, and by the way, here's next year, the year after, and the year after. When before they would have been scrambling around in SCCM, AD, Jamf, Intune, whatever tools they had. And again, like I said, the knock-on effect of that is then we're also looking at streamlining the hardware, which in turn means we're also looking at streamlining the software, which is why, going back to the previous point, it becomes ITAM, right? And not just ham and SAM. It's ITAM. But Rich, I mean, you talked about, you said before you've not had, your Microsoft through and through. I'm surprised you haven't got a Microsoft Christmas jumper. Maybe next year.
I've tried. There's a few of them out there, but they're really hard to get hold of. They go like quick. So if anyone wants to hook me up with a Microsoft Christmas jumper, you are welcome.
Or you can get an Excel. I know it's not tech, it is part of Microsoft, but the Excel esports, that's now a big thing. You can get an Excel esports jersey. But from your perspective, with that software hat on, the Microsoft hat on, how have you seen almost the evolution or the awareness of the hardware side of things since you've been in the ITAM world?
I mean, I think your point about the the number of devices to the number of users is probably the biggest one. So in the old days, device cals, user cals, it was always a bit of a you had to do some calculations. Now, almost goes without saying, you buy user cals because you've got one user, but they've got 4, 5, 6, 7 devices now probably. So and on the server side, again, as you mentioned earlier, needing to know about cores and processors and even sort of virtual storage and things, that all comes into play. So the relationship is closer, and of course with Microsoft, if you've gone down a Surface route, then from a negotiation perspective, having hardware and software asset management together will benefit you there as well, if you've got a big Surface refresh coming up or something. So I do think there's never going to be a downside to having your software and hardware data joined up and together. So if you're already doing it, brilliant. If you're a software asset management person, look to expand out into hardware, or if you've got a separate team. We talk a lot about how ITAM need to work more closely with FinOps, need to work more closely with security, etc. But sometimes even sort of in our own world, SAM and HAM, where they exist separately, need to make sure they're working together much more closely.
Agreed, Rich. And just on hardware as well, if you've already got your SAM process in place, I'm not going to be... Having not had a huge ham background, previously and until the last 10 years or so, if you're a guru in SAM processes, in implementing SAM, in that day-to-day life cycle management, chances are you're going to find so many similarities with hardware asset management as well, in terms of your processes, the life cycle, the request. Admittedly, you have to repair things, but that's similarly to packaging new software titles. But then at the end of the life, you've also got the potential of having money back, right? You've got IT asset disposition. You can resell your old fleet that you've retired. Software, you can't really, the whole resale market for software, kind of secondhand software market, got almost negated thanks to software as a service. But you've got something physical that you can resell at the end of the life. No value to you whatsoever. Fully depreciated, but actually through ITAD, once you take out the servicing fees, you've actually got a £150, £100 profit off that one device, which previously you would have just sent for disposal, get the data destruction references, get a disposal certificate, or you can actually get money back, which can then go back into your ITAM pot for tool advancements, unwanted, unplanned external audit pots, maybe even your hardware budget, etc. And Rich, going back to your Microsoft Surface example, there's so many vendors now that are also providing a leasing model for your hardware, which again is a very similar structure to software as a service, except you're getting a device as a service. I mean, there are things as well in your day-to-day, living. If you've ever been on holiday and rented a car, there are similarities with that as well. Like, if you get a scratch on it, that's going to be a little bit of value off it. There's a bit of a dent on there. Do you know what I mean? There's very similar things that you take from your day-to-day life. But if you're already doing SAM, honestly, HAM won't. It might seem like a big mountain now, but once you get going and start, realizing how they link together, you can knock out lifecycle processes and get stuff implemented in a relatively short space of time. The key thing is the data in your AMDB, not your CMDB, your AMDB. Thank you, Rich.
I like that. Yeah, AMDB. If you don't take anything else away, AMDBs are a thing.